Hi everyone, Michael from Bullion Now, bullionnow.com.au. So as you'll notice, there was no welcome to Michael's Mailbox singing at the start. Joe's not here today, he's pulled a sickie on me. So that's all right, we can still work our way through some of these fantastic comments. So for anyone who's new to this, we do a bit of a mailbox thing where we go through any of the comments from the previous week on any of the YouTube videos. Usually we do them at random. There's no real ones that we pick out specifically as a rule. Occasionally we do. But it's really targeted towards any of the questions that might generate a longer response, so it saves us typing them all out, or any questions that seem to be repeated a few times so we can knock off a few all in one hit. So we'll start off with the correct page here. I'm in the email instead of on YouTube. Here we go. So this is the live chat from Friday. So live in lockdown. And the one that I wasn't here for. So thought I watched the boys from the other office, their remote office, and thought they did a fantastic job. So it was good to see. Couple of comments here. One from E-Waste Ben. In terms of platinum, Perth Mint produced the 1/10 platinum coin. And I have a feeling that that's just their next one's just been released, so we might even see if we can get hold of a few of those maybe somewhere. And he's also made the comment about upping the audio. We seem to get two feedbacks on this. Some guys are saying that they have to increase their audio, and some guys are saying we're coming across too loud. So not sure what's going on there, whether it's a problem at our end or a problem at their end, but we're still looking into it. We've got the techies trying to chase that down. Voice of Reason, TikTok videos are lots of fun. It's good to see some of those TikToks coming along. And for those who watched the, not the last lockdown video live stream, but the one before that, we introduced some of the people from our dispatch centre. And a couple of those people have got on board and started filming some of our TikToks. So they're having a lot of fun with it, which has been good to see. Andrew Best, working on a freight barge in the Torres Strait. Good stuff. It's possibly one of the places to be at the moment. And then a few comments about where people are from, which is fantastic. And that's about it for that one. This is the one. The video we did on the granules, that seemed to cause all sorts of stirs. Some of it was interesting to view. Some of it I was kind of scratching my head at. For those that haven't watched it, we released last week some silver and gold shot. So it's the granules that are used usually partway during the refining process. So the metals are refined, whether it be from raw material dug out of the ground or recycled material, those types of things. It's then purified, it's turned into granules, and then the granules are used to turn it into the next stage, which is, it could be bars, it could be jewellery, it could be coins, it could be any of those sorts of things. So the granules or the shot is kind of the middle stage of that process. We'd had a few requests from people at different times about, can you get hold of some shot for me or granules for me? And sometimes it was jewellers that wanted it for processing further down the track. Some of it was from hobbyists that wanted to produce their own bar or coin or melt it. And some of it was just from people just wanting it for the fun of it. And I know we had one guy that wanted it so he could test out his metal detector in the backyard. So it was almost released just a bit of a novelty item more than anything else. But people seem to grab hold of it for a couple of different reasons. Now, one of the things we did that didn't help us was we actually had a glitch in the system, and we didn't pick up on it quick enough, where the pricing on it had been set at spot plus 40 cents for the silver. For a 50 gram bag, so which is well below our cost price. So the fact that that was presented at that, a few people bought it at that price, and then we realised our error and corrected the system so it was reading correctly. That seemed to cause a bit of confusion as well, so I apologise for that. The comments of this is there was scrap. Why am I paying so much for scrap? And we kind of covered this in the video. It's not actually scrap. It's actually the refined product at the end of the day. And the reason you're paying so much for it as a rule is because it incurs GST. Because it doesn't have a stamp on it to state its purity, because you can't obviously do that for each granule. But it doesn't specify weight and purity. It's now subject to GST. And that is a bit of an issue. We kind of went through that in the video, and I don't want to flog it to death. But there was a few comments of why would I buy it because of this. And I've got to be honest with you, I actually lean towards that as well. Why would you buy it? And the only reason I can really come up with is because it is a novelty thing. It's just one of those things that you can have a bit of a play with. It's not meant for the serious investment side. If you're going down the serious investment side, absolutely go down the bar side or the coin side, whichever way you want to go. You wouldn't buy Granules as a straight investment. It's not going to increase in value above and beyond spot. You are going to have difficulty selling it. A lot of places won't accept Granules back, and in fact, we don't, as a rule, accept Granules. We don't buy them back because it's so difficult to test. Yeah, sure, if you bring in, 5 kilos of silver, we'd probably consider it at that point, but it would be, it's not, we'd test it with an XRF and pay you out. What we'd actually do is say, okay, we'll take it in, we'll get it done by a refinery, as in they'll melt it down back into a solid lump. They will give us an assay for it so we can tell exactly what it is, and then we would pay you out on that. Because it's too hard to tell from a, getting out each grain and XRFing or whatever you're going to do. You really have to melt it and then assay it properly from that perspective. So it's not the sort of thing that you would stack as an investment on a larger scale. It's great for a bit of fun. It's great to show the kids. It's great to test your metal detector and that type of thing, and just out of pure curiosity. But I wouldn't go much further down the track. And having said that, it's great if you ever want to experiment with producing your own sort of product. So a few comments here on maybe do a video on how people can check to see if silver is real without an XRF. Like if the granule is real, it's very, very, very difficult, which is why you'd actually get it melted down and tested from there. A few people have seen it just as a bit of a novelty. I apologise for the music at the start of the video. Joe thought that was fantastic. I had a bit of a chuckle, but I don't know. Tell us how you felt about that one. Will you buy back? Look, it's not the sort of thing that we normally buy back with the Granules. It's like I said, it's that type of thing where, if you brought in 5 grams, 10 grams, 50 grams of Granules, it's not worth our time or effort. It's not worth your time or effort on a sellback of that sort of nature. We'd need to get it melted down, so larger quantities. One from Sim, which I thought was semi-amusing. They're great for loading up in a shot shell for when the vampires and werewolves come around. I thought that was a good one. And one from Merrin. You laughed at me for wanting to play with the Granules. Yeah, look, there's something magnetic about it. I don't know. There's probably a better term out there, but just running it through your fingers and that, it's like that. It's not called kinetic sand. It's called the sand that the kids play with. That's kind of got that feel to it as well. It's a feeling all of its own. Hi guys, this is from LK. Are you still open for pickup deliveries from Collins Street? We are open for click and collect. That's all we can do legally at this stage. So phone up, make an appointment, 1300 84 84 10. Talk to the lovely Sylvia or Joe, and Sam. Make an appointment there and come on in and do your click and collect, as long as you're within the radius of what's allowed for that. It's a mini epic unboxing, that's correct, or unpouring. Another one here. This is from RedX111T. I don't see any reason to buy shot unless you're a hobbyist, make your own bars, something like that. You're kind of right, but I mean, we've done that to death. Roberto Diaz, how many kilos to fill up a beanbag? Be a seriously heavy beanbag. I like this one, Division X, good for my fish tank. Believe it or not, our dispatch centre, they've requested a fish tank down there, and I was thinking the very same thing. We could have a bit of a treasure chest with some Granules coming out. I think it'd be great. Put it on the turntable. That could be hard work. I'll throw that one to Ruben and see what he says. Techno World, very nice video, good for playing, but for investors, the number one worst possible way to burn cash. Yeah, look, it is quite high premium. So I'd probably agree with that statement. I wouldn't have it as a straight out investment. but it's not bad, like I said, to play with, novelty. And yeah, sure, you could probably part it out if you ever wanted to. Yeah, don't know. I have to think about that one a bit longer. Yeah, so, and again, another comment on, haven't watched the video yet, but watched other videos saying how bad granules were due to having those stamps indicating purity, being hard to resell and test and that type of stuff. So it's that kind of thing. Just be aware of it if you're buying those sorts of things. All right, the third video, which was the Gold American Eagles. A lot of conversations on there about which is better, the Type 1, the Type 2. I actually quite like both designs, and I have nothing against the Type 2 design. I think it looks quite good. So this is from Aussie Kelpie. Totally agree. Love the look of the Type 2. Can't wait till they come in store in silver. Stand by. We have some Type 2s arriving. We'll actually have the Type 1s first. And I've noticed the Type 1s are getting out of hand with premium because they're now limited. So they've closed off the production for the year in the Type 1s. So we're starting to see the premiums on those start to track upwards. So could be a good investment. We'll see what happens on that one. The Midnight Gardener. Personally speaking, I much prefer the standard Eagle design to the remake. Okay. Politically speaking, there's a lot of political takes on this, and I'm finding it fascinating. Interesting how they changed the eagles facing from looking to the right, balanced by the nesting eagles looking left, to only looking to the far left. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that's a political statement or not. I don't know. I'd be interested in further comments on that one, too, if it is or if it's not. Jamie Frost. I'm not an expert, but filing off a tooth from the reading doesn't seem too high-tech. Yeah, I agree. I was a little surprised by their security feature. I'm wondering if I'm missing something. But I haven't had it pointed out to me, or I haven't found it yet. It seemed a bit of a funny one, that one. Jared Diamond, in the event of the US dollar crash, how will Australian silver gold investors fare? As you've said, we're investing in precious metals and the US dollar. I think they will fare very well if the US dollar crashes, because that can only, in the longer term, in short term it might cause other issues. In the longer term it could only be positive, because we really need to do a video on one day on how gold and silver it's one of those investments, a little bit like property to a degree, that never goes up in value. Stand by, don't jump on me just yet. It never actually really goes up in value. It's what you're comparing it to that is going down in value. So hard assets don't tend to change in price. And we did a video on this once before on the value of an average Melbourne house in 1970 compared to dollars, compared to ounces of gold, and then fast forwarded almost 50 years and did a straight comparison. And you could see that if you compared the gold and the house, they were the same 330 ounces that they've always been, with slight variations in between time. It's not like it's a direct linear scale, but they're very close to being, the same the whole way through. Whereas the value of the fiat currency had massively decreased. So what you could buy for it had been far less. So there's an argument of, has the price of the house and the gold gone up, or has the price of the dollar actually gone down? And I would argue it's gone down. So to answer your question, Jared, I would argue that they will do very well. That if the dollar crashes, and even if it collapses entirely and disappears, whatever it's replaced by, we'll still have that equal value that gold has always had across the generations and across the millennia. So a lot of support for the Type 2. A lot of people thinking it looks good. Fractional eagles. This is Dr. Spaceman. A great idea. A little hard to get in Australia. We have a bit of trouble getting them in. We are chasing some fractional eagles. We've got some fractional maples coming up very, very soon, if that floats your boat at all. Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce this one. Kata Lily? Don't know. I've got your name wrong and I apologise for that. You lost me at the GST. Look, I'm totally with you on this one. It frustrates us as bullion dealers that we have to charge GST on these things. Greater minds than mine have decided that investment in Australia, investment gold, cannot be anything but pure gold, despite the fact that the rest of the world considers the American Eagle the Krugerrand, the gold Kruger, the Sovereign. These are all 22 carat coins. Everywhere else pretty much in the world considers them to be bullion grade. We do not in Australia. It is a frustration, but it's the way that the Australian law is written, and that's just the way it is. So a few more comments on the GST type questions. Can't change it. It's just it is what it is, and that's the way it goes. Another one here. Love the new design, but this is actually Canadian. I hadn't read that. Obviously, Canada's similar to Australia. I love the new design, but in Ontario, tax on the gold buffalo is 0. Tax on the American eagle is 13%, so they're even worse off than we are. So I just bought the 2020 and 2021 1-ounce gold Kangas. Perth Mint rocks. Totally agree. They must. I hadn't realised this, but Canadian law must be very similar to Australian law, where those non-pures incur their version of the GST. So you chase things like the Perth Mint kangaroos, which are pure, or the buffaloes. Are we having a live stream today? Not today, not when we're watching this, but yes. Particularly while we're in lockdown, we're having this discussion this morning. We're going to do live streams every Friday. I'm putting an asterisk next to that because next week there may be a change. I'm waiting on feedback from a special guest. But at this stage, we're doing them every Friday at 2:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you can, tune into those. If you can't, they're a lot of fun and we go through a lot of things. And if you can't, then we make them available to view afterwards. So go for it. I love this one from Stan Spornak. Lady Liberty has gained a few pounds. I thought exactly the same thing. Don't know what's going on there, but she seems to be gaining a bit of extra weight, like a few of us as we get older. So all good. Type 1 looks much better, so a little bit of Type 1 love there as well. So Tyler Parker, I love the design of the Type 2, but prefer the Type 1 still. Waiting for the day to be able to afford to buy gold for my collection. Do you have suggestions for entry-level gold? Oh, that's always a difficult one, Tyler. You can always go for the fractionals. Just be aware that with the fractionals, you are going to pay a higher premium on a per-ounce basis. The same as anything you buy in bulk, it becomes cheaper the more you buy type of situation. So you can step all the way down to a half-gram bar, but the premium on them are just crazy. The half-gram premium is the price is very similar to a 1 gram price, and I think the premium's crazy on a 1 gram. For a half of that, you're paying almost the same amount again. So it's a difficult one. My suggestion is to look out for specials. We run them occasionally where we'll do some form of junk bullion, and we'll do it close to spot. And quite often they're fractional things, so that's the time to jump on that entry-level type of fractional gold. It's a great idea. The other, and I am plugging one of Bullion Now products, but it's one that Joe did last week that he talked about, where the unallocated program, where you can actually just pay spot while you're building it up. It's fully backed by physical, but you can actually just buy a gram or 2 or 3, whatever fits your budget, a week, a month, 3 months, and you can build it up to a larger amount and then convert it into a 1-ounce gold coin or a 1-ounce bar, and that way you're actually you're locking in today's spot at smaller levels at fractional amounts without having to pay that premium until you can save up that 31, 32 grams and buy a coin that is much lower, or a bar for that matter, much lower on the premium front. So that's another way of doing it as well. From Jason Lucchini, you still need to do a piece on the security features of the Britannia and the Maple and the Kangaroo. You're 100% right, and we're having that discussion this morning. Looks like we're going to film it later this week, early next week, so hopefully you should have something along those lines. Matt's going to do it by the sounds of it within the next week or so, which would be fantastic. That's it for all the comments. If I've missed any that you specifically wanted mentioning, don't be frightened. Actually, what we should do is have a look on last week's, have a quick squiz on last week's mailbox, and I'll see if there's any comments on there that I should have made. I didn't think of doing that. So this is why I need Joe here. Where are you, Joe? You keep me out of trouble. How many... yeah, Yes. Comment from Vaughan. How many companies have clients that care enough to give them knives and to engrave them with the logo? You're 100% right, and we're incredibly appreciative. If you don't know what we're talking about, we had, just out of camera I know, but I'll be back in a second. Here we go. We had 2 knives given to us by our customers for the unboxing. So one of them's handmade, which is just fantastic, and the other one is was made in Italy and imported by one of our customers, and looks like that. So 2 beautiful knives, which we're loving for the unboxings. So yes, you're absolutely correct. We're very grateful that people think enough of us to do that. So thanks for answering my question on platinum-silver ratio. I've done some research. Most people online are bagging it, which makes me even more inclined to try it. Yeah, look, platinum is still a little out there. It's becoming a little more mainstream. Everyone, I've not been shy of the fact that I'm a bit of a platinum freak. But do your own research, check it out, see where you want to stand with it. Speckled Jim, great info as always. A lot of conflicting views on the capabilities of the XRF. Absolutely there is. I've contacted several manufacturers to try to pin them down on the issue, and you're absolutely correct. There are a lot of variables, but basically several microns into the target. It's actually quite a few microns, it's not just 2 or 3. But it's still in the microns, it's not in the millimetres or centimetres or anything like that. I still come back to the fact that whatever method you're using, it comes back to the skill of the operator. So fall back on that. This is from Gil Belfast. Love the gilded coins. When it's done well, it's very special. Absolutely. And a shameless plug here, keep an eye out. If you're into the slightly collectible side, keep an eye out for Perth Mint's release of a gilded coin next month. I can't say too much because of the embargoes, but the one they're releasing next month, it's stunning. It just looks, I mean, I haven't seen the real thing. I've just seen the PR stuff that they do beforehand, and it's just beautiful what they've done with it. So stand by for that one. And we will feature it, so keep an eye out. Are we doing ratio swaps? The short answer is yes, we do ratio swaps. But it's not a straight, if you go to Kitco and see the ratio, the gold, silver, or whichever way you want to go around, you're not going to get exactly that. At the end of the day, we're a business. There will be some slippage in there, a little bit of loss, but it's not a huge amount. So yes, we do gold, silver. We do ratio swaps, but don't expect it to be on an exact ratio. There will be some slight slippage. This is from Francis Imperio. Love the video. Quick question though. Being from the States, we have pennies minted pre-85 to be 95% copper. Now worth 3 times its value and is still fairly common in circulation, so I've been collecting for a couple of months now. What is your guys' stance on copper? I'm wondering if Australia had something similar with fairly high purity copper coins, and if copper could become a good asset to have in years to come. Look, I'm not a copper fan, okay? I'm not in the physical side. The easy answer to your question is yes, Australia used to have 1 and 2 cent copper coins. We phased them out 90s. Trying to think if I was still in high school or no, it would have been after high school, I think. So yeah, it'd be sometime in the 90s. They were phased out. You still see them kicking around quite a bit. And then we had the pennies and halfpennies, if we go back into pre-decimals, back pre-66. And yes, you can stack them that way. The problem I have with copper is the fact that you've got to stack so much of it in a physical sense. Like, you've got to have some serious space to do it. So my suggestion, and I know I always upset a few people saying this, but my suggestion is if you want to play the copper side of it, unless you've got acres and acres and acres of storage space, to make any serious dent on your investment portfolio, you probably need to head down the paper line. And I know I've just upset a few people, and I apologise for that. But yeah, you need to really tuck things, like really have the physical storage space to go down that road. God's money. Why don't you? I'll get this right in a minute. Do some gold specials for some of the gold addicts. We actually did on last Friday's live feed. Gold's a hard one to do specials on. One is because it's so expensive, it counts a lot of people out. A lot of people don't want to throw that sort of money at it. And sometimes there's not much margin on gold as a rule there. It's not that there's a huge margin, but quite often there is more margin on silver items than gold, so it makes it easier to do those specials. So that's why you see not many of them out there, but we do them where we can pick them up and pass them on to you. Jamie Frost, great knives. Crocodile Dundee would be proud to aid the bigger one. It's great. Andrew Best again, great looking Aussie made knife. Good stuff. It's a bit of feedback on the handmade knife. A lot of positives there. A few comments on the Maid Marian. So that's, if you're not aware, the Robin Hood that we showcased in the last week or so, and we've got the gold Robin Hood coming out this week. I'm doing a showcase on it this week. The Royal Mint produced those. The next in the series is called Myths and Legends, I think it is. The next one in the series is Maid Marian. We are trying to import some of those as we speak. So hopefully soon we will we'll have some of those available for you. Here we go. This is from SDI Custom. Yes, SDI Custom means exactly what you think it does. So Joe and I, if you weren't there, had a bit of a conversation about what it means, and we pronounced it correctly. Michael also let me hold a 1 kilo gold bar, a highlight of my life. There is something incredibly special about that kilo bar of gold. And if you're in the neighbourhood and you stop in, you might be lucky enough, ask one of the boys, they might even let you hold one for a little while, because there is something primeval about it. Primal about it, not primeval, primal about it. It just really stirs you. I notice you haven't read out my question. What was your question? What client records... okay, here we go. This is from N. Regis. What client transaction records are you required to keep by the government, including transactions that are less than 10K? And how long do you store these records for? Thanks. Yeah, this is a bit of a sticky question. And I if I dodged it, I didn't mean to. So I apologise for that. We're not... Yeah, I've got to be really careful with this one. We're not required to keep it as such. There is a requirement in this country under the anti-terrorism and money laundering laws that if a transaction is conducted over $10,000 in cash, that it is reported to Austrac. And that's why you'll see it at the banks, you'll see it at bullion dealers, all those types of things. So that is, I think that's what you're referring to. That's the trigger point for it. It's that $10,000 in cash. As far as any other records that we're required to keep, I mean, standard records for the tax department that all businesses are required to keep, that's all. We restore these records for, I'm not an accountant, but I'm fairly sure it's 7 years. So for 7 years, that's pretty much it. Yeah, if the transaction is less than 10K, there's no requirements on it that I'm aware of, unless I'm about to be corrected by someone. It's just one of those things. It's something that we don't like talking about particularly, but you know, it is what it is. It's out there. If you do a search on Google, the relevant website will actually come up and from the government, and it will specify all the details. I don't have a link for it. I just know what we're required to do as a bullion dealer. And that's about it. So hopefully I've answered all the questions that you've got. I haven't got Joe here to keep an eye on me to make sure I do. If there's any I've missed out on, please just make them on one of the videos, or send us an email. Probably live at Bullion Now, so live at bullionnow.com.au. We tend to steer some of the questions towards that, and we deal with them on either the live stream or on one of these sort of videos. So that's it for now. Like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff, and we'll talk again soon. See ya.